Hello and welcome to Follow the Money. I'm Raine Musñgi. Join us as we explore the tools and insights you need to jumpstart your financial journey. Today on Follow the Money, we delve into the ambitious revenue collection targets set for the Bureau of Customs and the agency's response to persistent allegations of corruption. The BOC has been tasked with collecting a record-breaking 901.3 billion pesos for 2025. That's actually lower than the current one, a target crucial to the funding government economic recovery plans. Joining us is Attorney Vincent Philip Maronilla, Assistant Commissioner of the Bureau of Customs, to break down the numbers, address the controversy, and explain how the agency plans to deliver on its mandate. Attorney, thank you so much for joining us, making the trip on a Friday. We appreciate you being here. Welcome to Follow the Money.
Thank you for having me and for allowing the Bureau to explain some of our issues.
Yeah, perhaps as a start, Attorney Jed, the government has set a record, and you've updated it right before we came online. It's 1.06 trillion pesos for 2025. But before that, was the BOC able to meet its 2024 target?
We're a bit short for the 2024 target. I think I don't know the final figures yet because there are still accounting processes that are being done to match some of the figures that are coming in from our different ports, and of course some of the offsets that we usually collect from other government agencies. But a rough estimate would be about 4 billion. We're short about 4 billion pesos from the target given to us. But looking at the effects of the reduction in most of the tariff for highly importable products, which was implemented last July. In rice alone, we lost about 16 billion pesos in potential revenue because of the reduction in tariff. And that's okay because the final benefit would redound to our citizens. But again, because of those effects, and it's not an excuse, but if it were not implemented, we would have surpassed our target.
Understood. Now, you're coming from 862.9 billion for 2024. Now you're up to 1.06 trillion for 2025. That's roughly about a 13 to 15% increase. What kind of activities, technologies, enforcement measures are you planning to implement to ensure that you meet this kind of collection target?
Well, prior to this year, you should remember that we've been hitting our targets. In fact, we've been surpassing them. And if it were not for some unforeseen economic adjustments that happened in 2024, we were very confident that we would have hit the target for the Bureau of Customs. Now, in 2025, it's a higher target, but it's not as surprising. We're used to these certain percentages of increase that is given to us. We trust the macroeconomic assumptions for which these targets are based. And more than that, I think we've drilled down on the formula of what we need to implement in terms of achieving this target. And that is just basically improving further our revenue efficiency, which has gotten us to the point where we've actually hit our target. So improve revenue efficiency, continuous improvement of our anti-smuggling efforts to prevent further government leaks, I think will bring us back to where we were in 2023, where we hit and surpassed our target.
And you were talking about macroeconomic assumptions, and that brings us to the talk about currency adjustment and differential. And if we're talking about the dollar-based transactions, then we'll have to see how the Trump tariffs could potentially affect the BOC. Do you see that potentially happening here in your agency at this year?
Well, of course, I know any increase or decrease in the value of the dollar against our currency, the BOC benefits from. If there's a high dollar rate, then of course our imports being transacted in that particular currency, the Bureau of Customs benefits from in terms of conversion.
And you meet your target sooner.
Yes, and we meet our target sooner. But again, if there is a corresponding decrease in that, and we might be affected with it, there is also a balance benefit that would be provided, and that would be a stronger economic activity. And there might be an increase in our volume as well. So that might offset that particular decrease in our revenue collections.
How much of a growth in economic activity do you expect every year that affect your bottom line?
Well, we usually base it on the target given to us. That means if we're given about a 15% growth in target, we're assuming that our economic managers are seeing the same growth in our economy, at least in terms of collection and volume of imports.
You were mentioning earlier about how the exit of POGOs from the country might not really affect your revenue collection because the targeted products for them are kind of minimal. But there is still a substantial revenue leak happening in the BOC. Where is that coming from?
Well, it's coming from, of course, smuggling of excisable items, most particularly cigarettes and other excisable goods, which, if you look at our records and our presentations on our anti-smuggling drive, we've focused on. For last year alone, we had a record-breaking more than 80 billion worth of illicit items that we were able to apprehend. And that translates to, of course, plugging in revenue leaks and contributing more to our collection target.
Has your revenue leaks been declining over the years, and what has contributed to that decline?
Yes, it's been declining significantly. The revenue leaks has been declining significantly over the years, and it can be attributed to our continued focus on our revenue collection efficiency and, of course, our anti-smuggling efforts.
What about digitalization? You were mentioning that you are 98% digital, but there is still some expansion to do. That's not happening quite yet, although I did see a report that the DOF and the U.S. Treasury are actually investing in the BOC as well as the BIR to help plug those leaks. Do you see this as benefiting you? In what way?
Any digitalization efforts would benefit the Bureau. I think we've shown that when we actually fully digitalized majority of our critical procedures during the pandemic. Some of our in-house digitalization efforts, we needed to upgrade them from the beta stage to the implementation stage, and it greatly benefited our revenue efficiency and the transparency by which we conduct our assessment. So again, we welcome any help to fully digitalize the Bureau of Customs and the remaining systems that we need to digitalize, most particularly the integration of these digitalized processes into one cohesive customs processing system.
You are 98% digital, but you still have a TARA system. The alleged bribery, corruption, long-standing accusation against the BOC. Quadcom had quite a few sessions on it. How does the BOC address this TARA system? How does it happen in a 98% digital system?
As you say, as the saying goes, if there's a will, there's a way. And I think there are still a very small fraction of our employees that think that they can get away with it. And that's being investigated. There are systems in place to identify if some of our personnel are still engaged in this illicit activity. And if they're caught, they're being prosecuted and dismissed from the service.
The top five smuggled goods, can you kindly identify them for us, like in terms of value or even volume, and where are their entry points?
Well, the top five smuggled goods from recent experience would be illicit cigarettes, agricultural items, counterfeit goods still stay on top of it, and of course illegal drugs. And most of it are being smuggled at the southern part of the Philippines, where, of course, there are open seas. And it would be a little bit of a challenge for the Bureau to guard them. That's why we've employed a system where we've worked with the Philippine Navy and the Philippine Coast Guard to guard our open waters, because sophistication in smuggling activities of syndicates and other unscrupulous persons have pointed out to smuggling in the high seas already. Maybe because of modern technologies being used by the Bureau of Customs in our ports, they've shifted their focus on smuggling to the vast open sea and the vast shores of the Philippine Islands. And that's now the challenge of the Bureau of Customs in terms of our anti-smuggling efforts and our drive to further make our borders safe.
Right, and because of your digitalized system, you were saying that there's also increased cooperation or coordination with our regional neighbors, and you were saying that you have kind of centralized or focused on certain countries that are sources of these illicit products. Can you name them for us?
Well, the focus on countries would depend on the kind of smuggled product that we're looking out for. Let's say, for example, we're looking out for illicit cigarettes. Of course, we're focused on the Golden Triangle countries, Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, and Thailand. For counterfeit items, of course, China. We're looking out for items coming from that particular region. So it's not just one particular country that's doing smuggling. It's actually focused on the country of source, at the same time, the kind of items that are usually smuggled from those countries.
And the trend hasn't changed, right, Attorney? Like, it's still the same things. The counterfeit products still comprise the majority of the smuggled products into the Philippines. Is that correct?
Yes, maybe because you have to understand that the most smuggled products are the ones that sells, and the one that sells are the one that's ingrained in our culture, that our people usually buy, and there's patronage to it, and unfortunately, it's just in this very recent times that people are beginning to learn the lesson that there's really bad effects in patronizing counterfeit goods. There are jobs that are being lost. There are industries that are being closed down if we continue this patronage for counterfeit goods. So I guess it's not just a customs issue. It's also an issue where we need to educate our people on stopping their culture of patronage when it comes to counterfeit items.
Correct. If there's no demand, there's no supply. And I'm sure people's health are also at risk because of this culture of patronage. More conversation upcoming with Attorney Jed. We need to pause, though, for some reminders. But coming up, Attorney Maronilla responds to the most controversial allegations against the BOC. Stay on BNC and follow the money. Welcome back to Follow the Money. We're still with Customs Assistant Commissioner, Attorney Jed Maronilla. Attorney Jed, there have been reports about mandatory cash bond requirements for new importers. And they were saying that it's been labeled by the BOC as an anti-fraud mechanism. Can you clarify the Bureau's stand on that?
Well, the bond is to answer for any unpaid taxes or any damage that will be caused because of some fraudulent activities. If the company does not intend to engage in any fraudulent activities or any illegal activities, then there's no need to worry for that bond. It stays there. They can get it after they've finished their transactions with the bureau. That's why we're imposing this, because of the prevalence of activities that bring about some violations with our current laws. In fact, one of those that inspired this are the issues on balikbayan boxes, where unscrupulous deconsolidators would just leave and abandon balikbayan boxes to the detriment of the government and, most importantly, to the detriment of the OFWs who owns those balikbayan boxes. And now government is left to look for funds on how to cover the processing of these shipments and distributing them to the OFW. So if we have guarantees like cash bonds, this would deter companies from just simply abandoning shipments and letting the government solve their problems and their illicit activities.
Is this a percentage of the value of the goods?
I think it's not. It's
A fixed
it's
rate?
being deliberated to be a fixed rate. Yes.
Okay, and how much would that be? Just a ballpark figure.
There will be consultations before we get into a figure, because the law mandates that there should be public consultation.
For feeded goods, you were able to auction for feeded goods that generated 1.8 billion pesos for you. How do you decide what gets auctioned and what doesn't? What comprises for feeded goods?
It's not us. It's the law that tells you which goods should be auctioned off and should be forfeited. What happens is, if it's not regulated, we usually auction it off and produce some sort of a revenue from it. That's mandated by law. Now, for goods that are regulated, meaning there are social impact, there are impacts in terms of health, or the law mandates that it should be destroyed, then we destroy it.
You know, the BOC is not credited, is only credited for revenue generation, but you're not credited for trade facilitation or even operational transparency. Do you feel that these should be metrics that should be assigned to you as well, so that you get the kind of credit that is due you?
I think it's part of our metric. The ones that are it's part of the criteria by which we are evaluated. If you remember, if I can recall, we've already explained that our functions is threefold. We're a border security agency, we're a revenue collecting agency, and we're also a trade facilitation agency. Those are the three core functions of the Bureau. And our bosses and the government, and of course the public, especially those that are transacting with the Bureau of Customs, they evaluate us through these three major core functions.
And you've been able to connect with President Marcos recently and deliberated on your target. Would you be able to share with us what his impression or sentiment is when it comes to you meeting your targets, and what is his latest marching orders?
Of course, the marching order of the President is always to hit our target. Other than that, of course, there's a special focus on certain smuggled goods, most particularly excisable goods, which there's a substantial revenue leak that's being tagged to these excisable goods. There are also other marching orders coming from the President. The President is also concerned with, of course, the welfare of the employees of the government. And that's part of his marching orders, to make sure that the employees of the Bureau of Customs are also well taken care of. He asks a lot from us, but he also takes care of us.
Okay, that's good to hear. Well, you also have a green lane for your most trusted importers and exporters. Can you tell us who these personalities, organizations might be? Has there been a trend towards growth for these particular companies, and or have you noted a decline anywhere?
No. In fact, there continues to be an increase in the application to be in the Trusted Trader program of the Philippine Bureau of Customs. Right now, it's called the Green Lane program, the Super Green Lane program. But we're slowly shifting it to what we call the Authorized Economic Operator program. The Authorized Economic Operator program is a globally recognized program. So other customs administration also has that particular program because it allows us to engage into what we call a mutual recognition arrangement with other customs jurisdiction to allow a smooth flow of goods coming into the country and coming out of the country. And
what kind of benefits does it afford them?
Number one, there's less intervention in terms of assessment. There are more requirements in terms of security features of the kind of product that you're bringing in. So companies which are established to have this mutual recognition arrangement are able to agree to terms in terms of processing times and security measures to ensure that goods coming from one country being brought to the other country and vice versa would meet the standards in terms of food security and, of course, revenue assessment.
If you're blacklisted in one country, would you also be automatically blacklisted in the Philippines and vice versa?
If they're participating in both countries' Authorized Economic Operator program, which is covered by a mutual recognition arrangement, yes, that would be one of them.
Because by just the value or the volume of products or illicit products that come in and out of a country, they could be using their good name, the volume of their products to use such a green lane to bring in illegal products, but that hasn't happened so far.
That's possible, but that hasn't happened. If you look at the countries that are the companies that are participating in this program, these are companies with good reputation, and I think they would protect those reputations.
And some of these companies with good reputations, we were talking about it offline. Some of them are the likes of Toyota and Steel Asia and food companies as well as oil firms.
Yes, Mondelez, Nestle Philippines, of course the big three are also importing, if not their finished product, their vital raw materials.
Well, considering the increased trade all over the world that's happening, despite the looming Trump tariffs that people are guarding against, people are really trying to beef up more exchanges country to country, and hopefully, you are able to meet and surpass your targets for the year. Now, Attorney Jed, we come to this special segment of the show, and in this segment, we would like to ask our guests a personal, off-the-cuff, and real-life follow-the-money question. All right, Attorney Jed, let's rewind to the start of your money journey. Everyone remembers their first big win. You've been with the BOC for quite a while, but have you had a very first paycheck? Was your first paycheck with the BOC? And was it a large enough paycheck that you will remember it? What did you do with it? Did you spend it or save it?
Prior to being with the Bureau of Customs, I was a litigation lawyer for 5 years. So, of course, my first paycheck was the first paycheck I ever got from the law firm that employed me. Was it big enough at that time? Yes, because I had no money at that time. I was a law student, and that was my first job. So, any amount that you would receive at that time was really big enough for you. So, my first paycheck, I think I gave half of it to my mom.
As Filipinos normally do.
Yes, and then half of it I spent it all.
What did you spend it on? Can you tell us how much it was?
I think I bought a phone with that because I had an old phone which I was using since law school. So I think half of it, I bought a phone and a watch.
It seems a large enough paycheck to be sure, but hopefully something that really empowered you towards your ultimate place of work right now at the BOC. Thank you so much, Attorney Vincent Maronilla, Assistant Commissioner of the Bureau of Customs, joining us and sharing your updates and insights into BOC's business. Thank you so much for making the trip.
Thank you, Raine, and thank you, Bilyonaryo.
It's an honor to have you. Thank you. And if you like this episode and want to join the conversation or answer our questions, share them with us on social media, X, Facebook, and YouTube, #FollowTheMoneyBNC, and we shall post some of those answers on our next episode. And again, thank you so much to our guest, BOC Assistant Commissioner Maronilla, for gracing us on this episode. And that is it for today's edition of Follow the Money. I'm Raine Musñgi. Thanks so much for watching. Keep it here on BNC, the Bilyonaryo News Channel, always on top.